Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. Her body, her choice. Her body, her choice. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. Her body, her choice. Her body, her choice. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. Her body, her choice. Her body, her choice. Women united will never be defeated. 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 Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Come on, join the fight. Healthcare is a human right. Not the church, not the state, women must decide our fate. Not the church, not the state, women must decide our fate. Not the church, not the state, women must decide our fate. Not the church, not the state, women must decide our fate. Not the church, not the state, women must decide our fate.
Hey, nice job, everybody. Welcome to the Capitol. Thanks for being here. This is where we have the opportunity to actually physically let our representatives hear our voices. Here is where we have the opportunity to let them know that we're watching, that we're listening, and we're about to hold them accountable for the way they treat families in Michigan. I can't tell you how much I love seeing all this pink here today, and that you have come out like you have across the country since this election to let people know that your values matter and that you're willing to stand up for them. We have made enormous progress for women over the last decade, for health care, for immigrants' rights, for LGBT rights, and so much more. Today we're coming together to say that we refuse to go back to the regressive policies that this administration is putting forward, and that we will not give up the progress we've made so far. We're here to say to conservative politicians, that's right, that are prepared to attack our fundamental rights, that we are ready to stand up for them, that we include protection of reproductive health care, abortion services, access to Planned Parenthood centers, and the right of young people, the rights of people of color, of immigrants, of people of all faiths and backgrounds. If we raise our voices together, they in fact cannot ignore us. We'll continue to stand up and fight back against the numerous attacks at the state and national level. And if we do it together, we'll win. Let's take a look at what's recently happened, right? The president's scoreboard on the Affordable Care Act versus Trump and his cronies. American people, 3. The administration, 0. Even with full control of Congress and the Senate and the White House, they can't get you can't get this done because, first of all, it's crappy policy. Second of all of you have turned out and said to our representatives, shown up at town halls and had them answer for the sorts of policies they were putting forward and saying repeatedly, do not play politics with our health care. But the fight's just started. We got to get into the 2018 election when we have the opportunity to shift the balance of power. But we have to turn out. Our friend and U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow is up for re-election. She's a lifetime champion for women's health and rights. The entire House of Representatives is up, and the entire Michigan legislature is up for re-election. So we have an opportunity this coming year, because you know what they say, if you can't change your people, change your people. We're thrilled to have some pro-choice Democrats in the run for the governor, and we'll make a decision about our endorsement when that time comes. But we do know that we don't need a process to know that Bill Schuette's the wrong guy to lead. We're a little worried that you don't really understand who he is and what he has stood for. Bill Schuette's recently announced his candidacy, and he's hitting the road to tell people what he stands for in Michigan. But you ought to listen very carefully, because he's really running away from his issue on women's issues, his record on women's issues. He doesn't want you to know that what he's been up to while he's been AG, but we think you should know what's going on. Like Mr. Trump, he believes that your boss, your employer, ought to decide which birth control methods are covered by your health insurance. He believes, and he has used his role as Michigan's Attorney General to support lawsuits that were claiming the Obamacare birth control mandate was an attack on religious liberty. Yep, he used taxpayer dollars to make it harder and more expensive for struggling Michigan families to get the health care they need and live happily here. He has not been our friend, and we have to make sure that he does not take the governor's mansion. There's better people for you to hear from today, and I want to introduce to you one of our supreme advocates in the area, Adrienne Cooper. She prefers being called Dree and considers herself an advocate in all forms of life, the environment, animals, and the human race. She was born in Michigan, in Inkster, and her family moved to Detroit a few years ago. However, she's no stranger to the city, as she spent many summers in southwest Detroit in the Dexter and Linwood communities. Dree has been married to her husband, Anthony Jr., for over 20 years, and they have 3 children together, Anthony III, Avery, and Aaron. They live in the city. Throughout her life, Adrienne has held the firm belief that you get what you give in every community. We all should think that. For Dree, getting back into the community is essential, and it's often the only resource and the only source of hope that some people have for a better life. Adrienne's began volunteering with Planned Parenthood to help educate communities of color on the real purpose and mission of what we do, so they can overcome their biases and have access to life-saving health care services. Adrienne is the first ever incoming elected member to the Planned Parenthood of Michigan Advocates Board of Trustees, and I welcome Adrienne to the stage.
Hi, I'm very nervous. Thank you, Emily, for bringing me into this. Wow. Hi, my name is Dree. I am here on behalf of women. I'm definitely here on behalf of black women. I'm here on behalf of tan women, Muslim women, brown women, women that look like me, the poor women, the overlooked women, the forgotten women, the women that were left confused when 53% of women voted against women. Women that stand behind a dictator that doesn't care about women. As a black woman, as an Afro-Latina woman, racism had a history with Planned Parenthood, and that shuns black women and women like me away from Planned Parenthood. Let's discuss that. Let's talk about that. Let's go into communities and change that, and let's re-educate our communities. I work with women. I work with kids. I work with the LGBTQIA community. They don't know they're welcome, ladies. Let's change that. Hands on. Families don't know they have options. They don't. They don't hold their heads up. Women don't know, trans women don't know that Planned Parenthood is home. We have to go into these communities, to these people, and give them our hands. Look them in the eyes and let them know this is home for them as well. We need more of those faces here. Look around. They're not here. There's not enough of those here. Let's change that. I'm a black woman. I'm an Afro-Latina woman. I'm a woman that deals with poverty. I lost everything dealing with lupus, fibro, epilepsy. I lost my home, my car, everything. It shouldn't be that way just so I can be healthy. It should not. It's not okay. Defunding Planned Parenthood means people will be in ER for basic health care. Who can do that? Is that necessary? Is it acceptable? We have to change that. We have to fight harder. Where's the closest hospital for people that live on the streets? Where's the closest hospital for people that are poor, that don't have cars? Let's fight harder. Let's go into these impoverished communities. Let's let them know we fight for everyone. Somehow Planned Parenthood has become synonymous with abortion. That's to degrade us. That's to take away from all that we do. That's because that's all they have.
That's right.
We stand so tall. We have so much to offer. That's where they go. That's how they hit us. Oh, they're just abortion. We are so much more. We are so much more. We offer so much. Cancer screenings, health care, sex ed, prenatal yoga. The list goes on. Nothing's going to stop me. And say this, as a woman, and now looking at all the women out here, remember this, when you take off these pink shirts and put your signs down, you are still a woman. Do not speak against a woman, do not go against a woman. Just because their reality does not match yours, does not make them less of a woman. Stand up for women. Outside of whatever you do. Again, when these shirts come off and you put those signs down, we are all women and we will march together in everything. There's no room for mainstream feminism.
Thank you, Julie. I'd like a quarter of your insight and of your vigor and energy, which some days is lacking. Okay, now we have Katie Kelly. Excuse me. In addition to being a terrific mom and activist and a Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan board member, Katie has a super impressive resume. Katie is the political field director for America Votes Michigan. In her role, she facilitates in-depth planning among partner organizations to set strategic goals and imperatives around legislative advocacy, accountability programs, ballot initiatives, and electoral programs at the local and statewide levels. In 2016, Katie took a leave of absence to serve as the state GOTV director for the Michigan Coordinated Campaign to elect Hillary Clinton and oversaw the transition of the presidential campaign into the final voter contact phase. Before joining America Votes, Katie worked for Senator Rebecca Warren as her chief of staff from 2012 to 14. From 2007 to 11, before moving to Michigan, Katie worked for the Obama organizing apparatus in several states. In 2011, Katie was the field director for the We Are Ohio campaign, which collected over 1.2 million signatures and ultimately successfully won the repeal for Ohio's anti-collective bargaining law passed in early 11. She's also a co-director of the Great Lakes Political Academy here in Michigan, which trains and places top-flight campaign staff on targeted state-level races in the state. Katie earned a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minors in urban and Latino studies from Illinois State University in December of 2007. Please welcome Katie to the stage.
can always remember that Senator Warren told me what you write is what is said, and it's a long introduction, so I apologize. My name is Katie Kelly, and I was asked to share my story about why I support Planned Parenthood with you today. I've lived in Michigan for 6 years, but I was born and raised in Chicago's far south side. I'm the daughter of a single mother and the oldest of 3. My mother, an incredibly giving woman, was a pediatric ICU nurse for most of my life. For those of you raised by nurses, you know that means long, stressful, and unpredictable hours. When she wasn't working on the floor of the Children's Hospital in Chicago, she was studying to get her master's degree in social work from the University of Chicago. This meant for me and my brothers that when we woke up and left for school, she was often resting, and it meant evenings on her own while she worked or studied. When I was 15 years old and my body was changing in ways that I didn't understand, I had a lot of questions. Questions that went unanswered by public school sexual health programs. A girlfriend of mine who was 16 and could drive took me to my first Planned Parenthood appointment. At this appointment, I was able to ask questions I had about my body, about sex, and about contraception. I was given the education I so desperately needed about navigating my sexual health during my teenage years. When I was a freshman in college, the night before we all left to go home for the summer, I was sexually assaulted by someone who I thought was a friend. After waking up, packing my dorm room and showering, I drove home. And honestly, after a few days of trying to understand what happened, I drove myself to Planned Parenthood. I wasn't sure where else to go at a time where I felt so critically vulnerable and raw. At Planned Parenthood, I was greeted and wrapped up with compassion, zero judgment, and the direct health services that I needed for my emotional and physical trauma. As a 25-year-old young professional in between jobs, I discovered I was pregnant. This was 2 years before being pregnant was no longer considered a pre-existing condition. Now, due to both of my pre-existing conditions as an assault survivor, and at the time a 10-week pregnant woman with no access to employer-sponsored insurance, and without an additional $1,200 a month an individual plan would have cost me without maternity care, I had few options to check on the health and wellness of both myself and my pregnancy. Planned Parenthood was there to give me comprehensive reproductive care that I needed. From week 10 to week 26 of my first pregnancy, a critical time for fetal and maternal health, Planned Parenthood provided me with an option to receive the care I needed. Well, now that baby is 5.5 years old, and he's expecting to be a big brother any day now. At these very moments in my life, and I'm sure there are many here today who have similar experiences, Planned Parenthood was there to provide the education and care that I needed, no matter what. In these critical places where the state and federal elected officials have failed to provide for young people and young mothers, Planned Parenthood has been there to provide for me, no matter what. And when these same elected officials and their extremist donors attempt to further roll back the care and education so desperately needed and sought after by young people and adults across the state and country, Planned Parenthood is there to defend its patients and its advocates in the hall of the State House and the Capitol in D.C. Today I'm here to show up as an advocate and supporter of Planned Parenthood because at every point in my life when I needed sexual and medical health education and care, they were there for me. Today I will visit my legislators' offices to tell them why I stand with Planned Parenthood, and I hope that you'll join me.
And now we have the extreme honor of having with us today Senator Rebecca Warren. State Senator Warren knows the key to Michigan's success is in fact its people. That's why she steadfastly fought for us for over 8 years in the Michigan Senate, working to ensure that we have access to quality health care, good paying jobs, a clean environment, and strong public schools. A longtime resident of Ann Arbor, Rebecca was first elected to the Michigan House of Representatives in '06, where she represented the 53rd District for 4 years. Now in her second term as a state senator for the 18th District, she's proud to serve the majority of Washtenaw County. Prior to her work as a lawmaker, Rebecca served as the executive director of a statewide women's health nonprofit for 7 years, and she remains dedicated to those issues, consistently serving as a key sponsor of legislation to increase access to reproductive health care, family planning, and to promote comprehensive, medically accurate sexuality education. That's a good round of applause. Throughout her career, Rebecca is known for reaching across the aisle to pass critical legislation without compromising her values. In the Senate, she helped shepherd a bipartisan bill package to strengthen human trafficking laws in the state, and she also championed legislation signed into law that protects breastfeeding in public as a civil right. Woo! Rebecca firmly believes that Michigan stands at a critical juncture in our history. She's honored to serve the citizens of our great state and looks forward to continuing her work with colleagues and constituents to ensure it remains an exceptional place to live, work, and build a family. Please give a warm Michigan pro-choice welcome to our friend Senator Rebecca Warren.
Well, good afternoon. And thank you, Lori, for that very kind introduction. And thank you. I'm here to say thank you to all of you who are here today, who took time away from your jobs, away from your families, away from school to be here with us and looking out over this sea of pink. I know. I want to say it again. I know that we collectively have the power and the passion to protect each other, to protect our friends, to protect our sisters, to protect our neighbors. We have the power. I'm here to say thank you for all the things that I know you're going to do in the year ahead. We know what we're up against, right? Yes! We know that the best predictor of future behavior is past performance. So we know that the anti-choice politicians that serve in this Capitol behind me, that serve in local government, that serve in our Congress, and even in the President's White House, we know that they are looking to double down on bad policy, all the bad policies that they have backed over the last decade. We know that's what we're facing. And if it sounds to you like I'm gearing up for a fight, I am. Are you with me? I know you know. I know you've been hearing it today. How much is at stake if we don't win critical elections that are ahead of us in the next year? You know that anti-choice politicians at every level are working every day to take away our access to basic birth control and family planning, our right to safe and legal abortion care, our right to basic health care without paying a reproductive year's premium more than what our male counterparts make. They're working every day to turn back the clock on Roe. Are we going to let them? No! Now more than ever, we see the distressing impacts of these policies. And anti-choice politicians are showing us over and over again who they are. And if you remember your Maya Angelou, the first time that someone tells us who they are, we should believe them. We should take them seriously. We are not going to change the hearts and minds of some of these anti-choice politicians who think it's their place to meddle in some of the most personal, private, and important decisions that we ever make. We can't change their hearts and minds, but we can change their faces. In 2018, we will have the opportunity to elect people who share our values up and down the ballot. And are we going to? Yes! We have to stand together. We have to fight together. And you know what happens when we work together? We win. When we work together, we win. Hundreds of you took an important step today, being here, feeling this power together, knowing what we can change when we work together, when we pay attention, when we talk about our experiences, when we tell others that no matter how nice that guy or gal is that's serving in their district, if they vote anti-choice, they're not with us, and they need to go home. So when you go home today, look at your calendar. Think about how many hours you have a week, and maybe it's only one or a half. Take that half an hour or 1 hour a week that you have in your calendar and volunteer. Volunteer for Planned Parenthood. Volunteer for a local campaign. Volunteer for a state campaign. Volunteer for a gubernatorial campaign for someone who shares our values. Make a difference. 2018 will be our year. Together, we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Can we give it up for her long service to our cause one more time? Okay, and now you have some choices. You are either going to see a legislator here or in one of the surrounding buildings or head